Welcome to Weeby Reads Book Club. This month in Book Club we're reading Mary Pope Osborne's Thanksgiving on Thursday. Jack and Annie travel back to the first Thanksgiving in 1621. They have to try to fit in with the other pilgrims while also finding what their magical friend Morgan needs them to find. And as a result, they learn how life was lived at that time, how pilgrims spoke, and what their favorite customs were. But before we start, let's learn a little bit about the author. The author of the Magic Treehouse books is Mary Pope Osborne. So some fun facts about Miss Osborne. Mary's traveled a great deal in her life, although she hasn't traveled through time like Jack and Annie have. This traveling sparked a need for adventure and exploration in her life. She studied other cultures and has traveled all around the world. She also loves theater and seeing stories come to life. She's written several stories, but the Magic Treehouse series is her favorite. She says it's been the most fun to write. She has over 55 Magic Treehouse books and has written over 100 books in all. Mary says, "Writing is a miracle. You can travel anywhere in the world, to any time and any place, and still be home in time for dinner." That's pretty smart. So, let's talk a little bit about how book club's going to work this month. So together we're going to read the first 2 chapters today. And then after this video is over, I want you to download the Reader's Notebook. The link for that is in the description below. Then on your own, you're going to work through chapters 3 through 8 and work on your Reader's Notebook. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll get together and watch the second video, and we'll read chapters 9 and 10 together and finish out this book. So, are you guys ready to start? Let's get reading. This book has something called a prologue, which sets up the rest of the story. So basically, we're going to skip the prologue because we already know what happens in the Magic Treehouse books. You've got Jack and Annie, and they have a treehouse that takes them on magical adventures. And they have a friend named Morgan who helps them out, and she's a magical librarian. So we're going to go ahead and get started with chapter 1. What Feast? "Come on," said Annie. She stood in the doorway to Jack's bedroom. "Let's check the woods." "But it's Thursday," said Jack. "We're going to Grandmother's soon." "I know," said Annie, "but I have a feeling that the treehouse might be back. I think Morgan might have sent us a new rhyme." Jack trusted Annie's feelings. "Okay, but we'll have to be quick," he said. He threw his notebook and pencil into his backpack. He followed her downstairs. "Be back soon," Jack called to their parents. "Very soon," their dad said. "Don't forget it's Thursday," said Mom. "We're leaving for Grandmother's at 9. "I know," said Jack. "We'll be back in 10 minutes, said Annie. They hurried out of their house. They ran across their yard and up their street and into the Frog Creek woods. Jack and Annie ran through light and shadow until they stopped under the tallest oak. "Yay," said Annie. "You were right," said Jack. High in the tree was the Magic Treehouse. Jack grabbed the rope ladder and started up. Annie was right behind him. They climbed into the treehouse. Sunlight slanted in through the window. "Good, our gifts from our last trips are still here," said Annie. She pointed to the scrolls from Shakespeare's theater and the twig from the gorillas. "Proof we found the magic of the theater and the magic of animals," said Jack. "Look," said Annie. She pointed to a book lying in a dark corner. A piece of paper was sticking out of it. Jack pulled out the paper, and it was from Morgan, he said. He read, skipped a page. "Dear Jack and Annie, good luck on your 3rd journey to find special magic. This rhyme will guide you. To find a special magic, when work and toil are done, gather all together, turn 3 worlds into one. Thank you, Morgan." "So who do we gather with?" wondered Jack. Annie held up the book. The painting on the cover showed a basket of corn on a wooden table, and the title said, "A Feast to Remember." "We gather at a feast," she said. She pointed to the cover. "I wish we could go there." "Hold on," said Jack. "What kind of feast? Where and when?" But the wind had started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, and everything was still. Everything was absolutely still. Chapter 2. Shh. Jack opened his eyes. Bright golden sunlight poured into the treehouse. The air felt crisp and cool. Annie was wearing a long dress, a white cap, and an apron. Jack wore a jacket with a frilly collar. He wore short pants, long socks, leather shoes, and a hat. His backpack was now a leather bag. I like your hat, said Annie. It's funny. Yours too, said Jack. You look like a pilgrim, said Annie. So do you, said Jack. Oh man, I bet we're in the time of the pilgrims. He and Annie scrambled to the window. The treehouse had landed in a tall oak near the edge of a forest. Red and yellow leaves rattled in the cool breeze. Past the forest was a small village, and past the village was the ocean. It looks like we're where the pilgrims live, said Jack. We studied it in school. He opened the research book and found a picture of a village by the sea. He read aloud, In 1620, a group of 102 passengers sailed from England to America on a ship called the Mayflower. Many of the people on board wanted freedom of religion. They wanted to worship God in their own way, not the way the King of England had made them. Others wanted to find a new life in a new land. And today we call all the people who sailed on the Mayflower pilgrims. Yes, said Annie. Jack read on. The Pilgrims wanted to settle near New York, but a storm blew their ship north. They landed in a bay on the coast that is now Massachusetts. 6 years before, Captain John Smith had explored the coast. He had named the bay Plymouth. Plymouth? Said Annie. That's where the first Thanksgiving was. Oh, man, Jack smiled. So that's the feast. Wow, said Annie. My class put on a play about the first Thanksgiving. Mine too, said Jack. I played Priscilla, said Annie. I played a turkey, said Jack. Now we get to meet the real Priscilla, said Annie, and Squanto, and Governor Bradford, and Miles Standish. Come on. She started down the ladder. Wait, what will we say? Asked Jack. We'll just tell them hi and stuff, said Annie. Are you nuts? Said Jack. He put his book into his bag. They won't understand who we are. We need a plan. He slung the bag over his shoulder and hurried down the ladder after Annie. Listen, we need to... Jack started. I know, a plan, said Annie. But first, let's get closer to the village and just watch. Okay, said Jack, but we can't let anyone see us. We have to be careful and quiet. He and Annie started walking carefully through the woods, but they did not walk quietly. The autumn leaves crunched and crackled under their leather shoes. Shh, said Jack. I can't help it, said Annie. You're doing it too. Then we have to stop. Let's get behind the tree and watch from there. They crunched over to a tree at the edge of the woods. In the distance was a row of small log houses with steep thatched roofs. Jack pulled out the book. He found the part about the village. Then he pushed his glasses up and read to himself. The Pilgrims brought chickens, geese, goats, and sheep from England. They brought seeds to plant and knew how to make traps to catch wild animals for food. But they could not have survived without the help of the Wampanoag Indian named Squanto. Squanto taught them how to grow corn. Hi, you, Annie whispered. Jack looked up. Annie was talking to a skinny yellow dog. The dog was sniffing a tree near them. Don't let them see us, Jack whispered. Why? Said Annie. The dog looked at them and barked. That's why, said Jack. The skinny dog barked again and again. 2 pilgrim men ran from the other side of the houses. Then more pilgrims appeared. They all looked in the direction of the barking dog. Oh no, said Jack. Let's go back. We don't have a plan yet. He packed up his book and started away from the tree when suddenly something tightened around his ankle. A tree branch snapped. Ah! Jack shouted as he was jerked up into the air. Looks like Jack got caught. You guys keep reading, and we will come back and read the last 2 chapters together. See you soon.